Good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 p.m., so I'm going to call the Grand County Budget Advisory Board meeting to order. September 24th, 2021. And present on the board, we've got myself, Chris Baird, the chair, Chris Kaufman, Kevin Walker, Angela Book, and Quinn Hall. We've also got Mallory Nassau with us right now. And let's see. First order of business is approval of the minutes. We have minutes for September 3rd that I sent out. Everybody had a chance to take a look at those?
So I'll move that we approve the minutes for September 3rd.
Okay, Kevin makes a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Chris Kaufman seconds. Do we have any discussion or corrections? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Our minutes for the 17th aren't ready yet, so I'm going to go ahead and postpone those. And so let's see, next up is an update on revenue projections. We got our sales tax figures in for July, so I just want to go over those because they altered my projections a little bit. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so that's a lot of numbers, but mostly paying attention to this column right here, these percentages. These show July's collections relative to July's collections in 2020. And if you remember from the last time we talked about the revenue projections, you know, the first half of 2020 wasn't very useful because of the COVID shutdown, but a lot of the accounts had started to recover by July, not to the point that they had recovered by August and beyond, but I think that we can start actually using the second half of 2020 as a reference point from here on out. And so we're seeing for transportation taxes, one of them is about 5.73 up, the other is about flat at around 100%. County sales tax is about the optional 0.25% tax is about 4.55% up. The hospital tax 5.68% up. Restaurant took a big dive for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Lower than both 2019 and 2020. The TRT, however, grew by 13.47%, so that's actually quite a bit. This other sales tax stayed relatively flat. You know, and you might ask yourself, well, why do these sales taxes that are all applicable to the same transactions not go up the same? And I don't know why, but I think that it's because people aren't remitting or collecting or remitting their sales tax that they're supposed to, quite honestly. And I've been working with the tax commission on that. But for some reason, this sales tax stayed flat, where these ones grew. And so, traditionally speaking, our generally applicable just sales taxes usually go up between like 4 and 6%. And so this is kind of more like the normal growth we're used to seeing in years past. And then the car rental, one of these car rental taxes went down and one went up a little relative to 2020. So as I suspected, we were kind of, you know, hitting a sort of a plateau on this big growth spurt. And so it ended up being pretty dang close to what I projected We're about 32,000 under. The TRT outperformed my projections, but everything else was a bit lower. And so I took these numbers and sent them across the rest. I kind of canceled out or normalized a couple of these low ones. I think that might be a little bit of a fluke. But I reprojected using, these figures, and then when we get the next month in, we'll be able to average these two together and maybe even get a little better understanding of how to project out through the rest of the year. So we'll continually refine it, but the end result on these total projections, were that a lot of them went down a little bit, and then the TRT went up a bit. And so these percentages, if you can see these, are how I'm projecting we'll close the year right now relative to 2019. So you can see that we're still looking at, record-setting growth for 2021. But it does appear that we're kind of hitting a bit of a normalization or a plateau, and the big growth spurt might be over. I do have some suspicions that when the air quality is really bad, so bad that they recommend you not even go outside, and you can't see very far, that it does affect our economy. July was a very smoky month and kind of right on the coattails of the Pack Creek fire. So who knows how that affected things, but I am, interested potentially in tracking particulate levels against economic activity. Obviously, being able to see things is an important part of visiting Grand County, and also, being able to safely breathe the air if you're going to be out exercising. So, kind of interested to do some research that way. I know that Island in the Sky has a pretty reliable particulate monitor. Might try to get some of that data and see how it correlates. But anyway, that's the revised projections. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Looks like, I believe, Mary McGann has joined us, and Renee Baker and Zach Wachesik have joined the meeting at about 1:08 p.m. Let's see, we moved a little faster than I thought. I think Carrie from the library is planning on joining us at 1:15. I'm just going to take a moment to kind of stage the budgeting software. So we're going to cover the library's revenue and expenses, and will be kind of a good example of government accounting and how fund accounting works. So if I switch over down into this data browser mode and click on library, it kind of gives me the bottom line, and that's one of the real values of having software to do budgeting. When I first got on the council and all the way through, 2019, we would do budgeting on paper, and then the clerk auditor would take it back and put it into the computer, but, there was really no real-time feedback on how the bottom line was being affected with any changes. And so one of the really nice things about this budget software is that as we make changes, we can always see what the bottom line is. So here we've got revenue and expense, and then the bottom line. So at this point, with our projections for revenue for the library, which is predominantly property tax, and then all the expenses that Carrie requested, this negative number indicates that there's a surplus of revenue. And so, one caveat to that is that we still haven't revised the 2022 projections for employee salaries and benefits. And so at this point, it's just carrying the numbers straight across from 2021, just so I have something in there. But undoubtedly, these are going to go up because there's, there could be a COLA, there could be salary adjustments, and then there's going to be a lot of pay for performance, merit and milestone increases as well. So that surplus is probably going to evaporate. But in government accounting, the revenue and expense has to net to zero. And so if you get all of your expenses covered and you have revenue left over, you can send it to any account really, but oftentimes, what we do is send it to capital projects to cover any big maintenance needs that might pop up. And also, just to the fund reserve as a sort of a rainy day fund for the library itself. So one of the things to realize about the library, like I said, it's predominantly property tax funded, both the debt on the building and the maintenance and operations, administration, et cetera. So up to this point, we've never had to send any other money into the library. It's always a bit of a struggle, though. For instance, like if the rest of the county does a big salary adjustment or a COLA, some of the growth and sales tax and whatnot can help absorb those increases. But when your only revenue stream is property tax, the new growth revenue that comes in is usually not enough to cover any substantive change to the budget. And so in the past, we've done more truth and taxation hearings for the library than we have for our general operations, and that's just because they don't have any revenue stream that really grows substantially. And so that's always a bit of an issue for this fund, and that's something to keep in mind. They do have a little bit of a fund balance, and there's also the possibility of sending some other funding from Grand County itself into this library fund. I guess we'll see how it pans out in the end there. Let's see, I don't see Carrie. We got Renee. Renee, do you want to go ahead of Carrie, or I don't know if I dare, because Carrie did ask to be on at the beginning, but unless somebody's got something to talk about for 2 more minutes.
I know Carrie said she was going to hop on by 1:15, so I will say, I'll bring up one thing, Chris. When we're looking at the actuals in the 2021 budget, or the actuals for 2021, do those automatically update, or do they go after the date you imported it on?
So this software syncs with the main Casella accounting software in the middle of the night every day.
Okay.
However, it only syncs in with the general ledger, and so we won't see any AP or payroll or anything until you actually upload to the general ledger.
Sure. I've had a few department heads reach out to me, but there is an issue with their 400 accounts, which is usually kind of like special department supplies. But what was happening is the Cigna payments were crediting there instead of the big Cigna account. So I have to just enter those journal entries. So I just want to make sure those would get updated after I do something in the general ledger. So
yeah, so
you'll notice.
So yeah, if you manually fix it, you'll probably do it right in the general ledger, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
Yep. So I'll get that fixed in this week or next week.
Oh, okay. All right, looks like Carrie's here. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
All right. Let me share my screen with some of this budget stuff. So we're going to start off, Carrie, from the revenue side, and then we'll head into the expense side.
Of course.
All right, so first up are the property taxes, and I got these projections from Chris Kaufman, which include some projection for new growth through 2022. So this is what's budgeted to come from the certified tax rate plus, some estimation using years past calculations for new growth, which we never really know exactly what it's going to be, but it's usually, Chris Coffin, I think, trended that out, and this is what he came up with. I guess one question I have, maybe Chris and Quinn can answer this, is Chris, you did project out miscellaneous. We have miscellaneous in all of the accounts. I think that I meant to change this protest tax over to miscellaneous, but where have we been putting the miscellaneous taxes, or are we not splitting those out for this fund?
Can you repeat the question, Chris? I lost a little bit on the connection there for a second.
So in your budget projection, you have an amount for the various, what we're calling miscellaneous property tax. And I think at some point in time, I was going to change this protest taxes account to just rename it as miscellaneous. But at this point, it doesn't look like it has a miscellaneous account, or one hasn't been used. So have we just been not parting that one out for the library, and those taxes have been going into different accounts?
I think I've been splitting it out on a monthly basis. And yeah, it looks like these accounts just weren't updated the same way that we did the other ones.
Go away.
Yeah, I think I just forgot to change the name of this one, this protest tax, to miscellaneous.
Chris?
Oh, sorry, I see it. It's up here.
I was going to say, can you increase your spreadsheet, because I think it's the 3111.
Yeah, you're right. There it is. Okay, solved that. So anyway, these property taxes, they'll go up some. However, again, they're not going to grow the same as sales tax do. I don't know if you were on, Carrie, when I brought up the fact that, when COLAs happen or salary adjustments happen or big changes occur to budgets, the library doesn't really have a sales tax that grows that can absorb those increases. And so we've done more truth in taxation, property tax increases for the library over the years than we have for the general operations of the county, because of that. And so, something that the Budget Advisory Board needs to keep in mind. And, there's a bit of a fund balance that can be drawn down, but if we do look like we're heading into the territory of running a deficit, the next year we'll probably have to go through truth in taxation for the library. And that's generally how it's kind of worked once it starts to trend into the red. The only alternative would be to subsidize it. But probably better to just do the truth in taxation. Normally, the property tax increases for the library are not very substantial, with respect to how much people's tax bill is going to go up.
Correct.
So then moving on to intergovernmental, we've got a CLEF grant. One question I have for you, Carrie, was it looks like on your spreadsheet, you didn't put anything down for the San Juan County ILA. Is that an oversight, or is there some change there?
No, I apologize for not explaining that. I did email you a little earlier today, but you had probably already started this meeting. So the current interlocal agreement expires the end of this year. San Juan County has a new library director, and their library board is trying to decide if they want to continue with that ILA or if they do not. And at this point, I just don't know what they're going to decide to do.
Okay. Well, hopefully for the people in Spanish Valley, they decide to, I mean, where is the library? Is it way down in Blanding or Monticello?
There's a small branch library in LaSalle, but it is really very small with very limited hours. And before we entered into this ILA, that was the one thing that we would constantly get yelled at, are those folks that live in Spanish Valley, in San Juan County, but work in Moab, go to school in Moab, the grocery shop in Moab, and they want to use the Moab library. And so it's in the past has been very complicated. The ILA was a really great thing, and I'm trying very hard to convince the San Juan County that they want to continue with this ILA, but I don't know what they're going to do.
Okay.
Is there anything we need to do? Do we need to contact them? Is there any way we can help make sure that happens? Do we need to write a letter?
I think, to the best of my understanding at this point, it's a decision that the San Juan County Library Board is making as part of their budget discussion for the next year. That ILA payment to Grand County comes from their library fund, because residents in San Juan County in the northern part, they pay San Juan County property tax, not Grand County property tax. It's just a matter of them recognizing that for $6,000, the families that are affected that's the best way to get them library service, but it's not a decision.
Okay. Chris, so again, I don't know, I can't remember if you projected interest for the library or not. Do you remember if you did?
Chris, I'm sorry. I'm struggling with my internet connection. I just shut my video off to try to keep up the service a little better on the connection. I missed the question.
Oh, I was asking Chris Kaufman if he projected the library's interest earnings. And also, nobody can see you because I'm sharing my screen, so everybody's camera can be off.
Oh, okay, great.
I'll take a look at that, Chris. It's not going to be very much one way or the other, but I'll take a look and see if I did give you a projection on that or not.
Okay. And do you remember, roughly what percentage as compared with this year's budget you were using?
I'll have to look that figure up for you, Chris, but I should have it here in a few minutes for you.
All right. I'm going to put in 1,000 for now, and then we'll come back to that. It's not a big deal. And then a little bit for 1,000 for fines and fees. Is this 8,000 that we had in the 2021 budget? Is that a mistake, or is that really what we had down? Looks like for 2019, we almost got that much. Can you hear me, Carrie?
Chris, I am so sorry. My internet just is, it's not doing well. I got part of the last of what you were saying. Based on where your cursor was at, I think that you're asking about library fines and fees. Is that correct?
Yeah.
My apologies. So the library board recommended that the library go late fine free a few years ago. And so that $8,000 in library fines and fees is not a realistic number, and that won't be reached. That was never supposed to be that high.
All right, just checking. So also, Carrie, if you click on the button that says I think audio, you might have the option to call in on a phone or a cell phone, which might be a better connection if you're having trouble.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on it, and if I have to pop out and try to come back in, I will.
Well, you can kind of like leave this one running, and then you just dial in with the number it gives you, and then enter your meeting ID and participant ID, and then you'll kind of be through both.
Okay,
You'll be able to see, and you'll be able to hear and communicate better over the phone. That's how I'm doing it right now, in fact.
okay.
Anyway, just a little on Zoom.
Okay, I'll
But
try
only
to do.
only if we continue to have trouble.
Okay,
And then in contributions, we have 4,000 in donations, which is, you know, pretty close to years past. This is also where we would make you know, if there were revenue left over that we could send it either to capital projects or this fund surplus, the sort of rainy day fund for this fund, or the capital projects fund that the library has for you know, big capital needs, roofs and other repairs. And, you know, when we get through the end, we'll take a look at what the bottom line is. And that's it for revenue. Anybody have any questions on the revenue side for the library before we move to the expense side? Okay. Moving on to expenses. So, the salary and benefits right now is just pulled straight across from 2021. And that's going to go up for sure. You know, if we do a COLA, it will go up as a COLA. If there's any salary adjustments, it'll go up for that reason. But there's also the pay for performance program, milestones and merits that need to be added in. So these figures are going to go up, but we're still working on all that. And then I guess I'll turn it over to Carrie. And normally what I do, instead of go through every single line item, I usually will ask department heads to just highlight any significant changes from prior years and then zero in our discussion on those instead of just spending our time talking about every single little line item that hasn't changed. So I guess, Carrie, I'll just ask you, you know, to cover any of these line items that you think, you know, might have changed or need further explanation.
sure, happy to do so. So basically what the library board approved at their last meeting was no increase from the 2022 there was no increase from 2021's budget to 2022's budget in anything other than what you already said, the benefits and salaries, which is kind of out of the library board's hands. And so everything else there for 2022 is the same budgeted number as 2021 to the best of my recollection.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it to me. Exactly the same. Okay. So I have to say, you know, normally I run some analytics on these numbers. I didn't have time this week. But these were proved out last year, these figures against prior years. And I'm pretty confident that, at least for the library, that these will still hold. The only thing I might look into, but it looks like it's covered, is just, you know, things like utilities, certain like fuel utilities, some of these things that have are commodities where we know that the prices are going to go up a degree. But it looks to me like, you know, with regard to utilities, that we still probably have enough in the budget to cover any increase. 2020 was 28,000, so we're still got a bit of a cushion there. And then, like I said, once we get through this process, then what's nice about the budget software is we can switch over and see the bottom line right away. So Carrie, at this point, without doing accounting for any increases in salary and benefits, your revenue exceeds your expenses by 36,196. I do expect that most of that's probably going to get soaked up by benefit and salary changes. And then, do you have any particular anticipated big capital needs?
Yes, the main thing that we really need to think about is the remainder of the roof on the library. A couple of years ago, it had an emergency patch done because it was literally raining inside the building whenever it would rain outside the building. And that was fixed, but 3/4 of the roof was not. And it has about a 15 to 20 life year expectancy, and we've been in that building since '06. So the last couple of years, we were budgeting $20,000 to go into capital projects for that roof program, that roof repair. And I think last year we were able to put 40 in based on some additional monies that came from the feds as part of the CARES grant. And so that is something that needs to be kept in mind, that within the next probably 3 years, 75% of that roof is going to need to be fixed.
Okay. So yeah, in 2020 we did send 40, and I guess we're going to have to project out for the end of 2021 and see how things are shaking out. If possible, we might be able to make a contribution this year too. I guess it just depends on how we're going to close the year. And so with the capital projects fund, as we do generally with other funds, so at the end of 2020, it looked like we had about 127,000, almost 128,000 in the fund balance for capital projects. And, that might go up if we can put more in than we take out in 2021. But with regard to, did you get any cost opinions at all on what that full roof replacement is looking like at all?
Chris, Sean and I have been talking about it a little bit, and it was a couple weeks ago. He did tell me some numbers, and I am so sorry. This last week has just been really complicated, and I am not as well prepared for this meeting as I should be. I don't.
Well, that's all right. We actually deal with capital projects closer to the end of the process, so you still have time to work on that. I was just wondering.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, go ahead.
This is Sean.
Hey, Sean.
I haven't had time to get solid bids on it, but I'm thinking 150 on that guy. So, but that's just a rough estimate. So.
All right. So it looks to me like we're probably got a little ways to go before we're gonna have enough money for that, and so we got to keep that in mind. And we'll work on the capital budget nearer to the end, and we kind of revisit that. So usually I have all the department heads send me their list of capital needs running out into, several years, and it's good, to save up for those things. And so when it comes time to have to do the project, we've got the money for it. So that would be something we'll come back to, Carrie.
Thank you.
But yeah, I am expecting, quite honestly, that next year we'll probably have to go through truth and taxation. Because I think that when we do some salary adjustments and pay for performance and any COLA, that it's probably gonna run you in the red a little bit. Once we see that, you have to rectify it somehow. So just as a heads up, there might be a small property tax increase necessary next year for the library. And I think that's it for, it kind of covers, whatever so this is the capital budget here. Normally, whatever, the budget for 2022 will essentially be, the balance of 2021 plus anything that we can send to capital. And so it kind of depends on how much we spend, how much gets put in, it's a very simple calculation, really, because the only revenue stream for this capital comes from the library's operation fund itself. And then, we just budget to spend the full amount that's in there, or that we expect is going to be in there, because you never really know what's going to pop up, so that we have the freedom to cover any, emergency expenditures, HVAC goes out, big roof problem, whatever, we're ready to spend the money if we have to. So that's normally how I'll do these capital budgets, is just try to determine what the end of year balance is going to be and then set the budget according to that. Okay, anybody have any questions? Carrie, do you have any questions or concerns or anything else to talk about?
I do not.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, signing up to do this today. It's everybody always wants to kind of wait till the last minute, and that doesn't work. So I appreciate you doing it today.
No problem.
Does anybody else have any questions before we move on?
Carrie, it's Renee. I just want to make sure you didn't have any position changes or any kind of big expected things there, other than our salary survey and whatnot.
No, I'm not asking for any additional full-time positions or any increase in part-time hours for 2022.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. I think that's it.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, next up is Renee with Personnel Services. Let me navigate over there. Okay, so again, at this point, we're just drawing the salaries and benefits straight across from 2021. And so, looks like Renee might have a request for specialist.
Yeah. I'm going back and forth on that. I would like to chat about it a little bit further about adding that position either back in as how we wrote the job description before, which was a personal services specialist, kind of handling all the general HR duties. You'll see a little bit lower though. I have some other things that I think if we can outsource some of the things that I'm doing now, that'll free up my time to do some of the bigger picture things that I've been trying to get to for the last couple of years, and hopefully maybe not even need that position. Other than that, it also comes with some increased office expenses, trying to find some space to put somebody. So
yeah, so just
as a little question still.
Yeah, just as a little background, I mean, I think for two or 3 years now, we did budget for some HR, an assistant or a specialist or whatever we want to call it. But we haven't had the space for it. And then in 2020, COVID struck, and so we canceled that out of the budget. And so it's been kind of an outstanding issue for a while. And I think our matrix report said that a county this size really should have, what was it, like 2.5 full-time equivalents in HR for an organization this size. But right now, we just have Renee doing HR, and she has a payroll person, but that can help out a little with HR. But we're still down relative to best practice for an organization this size for payroll, or not payroll, but HR side of personnel services. So that's an issue, and I think it can impact Renee's ability to update the employee handbook and policy and all these other things. I mean, she still does a great job on updating policy, but we do need to totally revise our employee handbook and recodify it. That's hard to do, when you're just barely able to keep up with just the day-to-day workload. But we don't have any space for it, so we might, if we did something like that, I don't know, we'd either have to convert the break room or rent space. I'm not sure.
Right. So I'll leave it as a question. I'll kind of pull some budget numbers on it, but like I said, I have some ideas of outsourcing some of the things that take me and payroll a bit of time that might help as well this year.
Okay.
So I didn't have any change in subscriptions and memberships, just doing the TechNet, which is our compensation, and then professional organization there. The public notices, and I wanted to ask you this, Chris. I took it down because I do put a lot of the recruitment advertising into my professional services budget. And now that a lot of the in-paper postings don't need to happen. So I've taken that down a little bit. I haven't used, looks like in 2020, I used $1,100, but so.
All right, so you're saying using professional services for job noticing?
Yeah, like when I notice in Indeed or LinkedIn, or on like the professional sites, planning and zoning is coming to mind, and you have to pay the $100 for their posting. I usually put it in the professional services.
Okay. I don't know if it applies to that account, maybe. The professional services are usually, like when you're reserved for when you're contracting.
Sure. So maybe I should move all of that type of advertising up into my public notices.
I think it probably fits there better, quite honestly.
Okay.
So, do you know how much that is?
It really does vary. Let's go ahead and put public notices up to 25, and then we can drop.
Here, let me do a little calculation here.
Sure.
So 25 plus 800 or just 25?
Just 25.
Okay, so let's say. So then can we drop this one by 1,700?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Moving along, travel, no increase in actual what I budgeted. Haven't used it in the last couple of years because of COVID, but we'll see if that changes in 22. Office supplies staying the same. So the big one is my professional services. And the first one, the biggest one, is the Right Way app, which I can explain a little bit more in depth, but this is one of those things that if I could outsource it, it would free up a lot of my time. Right now, I kind of act as a middleman between the brokers and any employee issue, maybe with a Cigna bill or a health insurance bill, any issue getting a dependent on their care account or things like that, kind of working on those little issues day to day. The Right Way app would actually take care of all of that. So they load in our plan information. They're able to go through individually with the employee and tell them, you're not utilizing your plan the way you should be utilizing it, and just kind of help with steering them in the right place, getting the right care. And then also helpful, they are also there to help with any of the billing issues. They take it directly to the carrier that we have. I do think this one will be a great help, especially since we're kind of looking at maybe switching carriers in 2022. I think we just got a meeting request for our budget or our proposals for those. And then they also kind of just monitor, and they can provide us with some more in-depth reporting that our carriers, that our brokers just don't have. They don't see the, I guess, day-to-day claims that people are making. So that's what the Right Way app is. I'm absolutely more than happy to go a little bit more into depth on that. The express evaluations is just another one of those outsourcing things. So this would be an online evaluation system where I can kind of take a step back and set up the supervisors and the employees, and then they work on their evaluation together within the system. It all gets submitted electronically. They can sign it, they can do their responses, and then we can just pull a report when it's ready to look at milestones and exemplaries. So that one's $4,500 a year. And then I did put the Cassell, there's a $2,000 cost to add an additional 2 licenses, and then there's the $1,200 for the yearly cost on those 2 licenses. That just covers, we use the Cassell programming for payroll and some HR functions through the clerk's office. So that just puts 2 licenses on mine. And then everything else in there is just drug tests and kind of just standard professional services things.
Okay. So the right way application, would that be in addition to a potential specialist or instead of?
I think instead of, I think if I can take all of that kind of smaller claims issues and get it over to the right way team, I don't see the need for an additional person.
All right. Well, it's definitely cheaper even than a part-time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my other question on that, Chris, was would it make more sense to put it in the health insurance fund, which is the Fund 11?
Well, the way Fund 11 works right now is that it's just a sort of a pass-through fund.
Sure.
So
Okay.
if we put it into Fund 11, then we'd have to also make a respective transfer to go with it, which is
Gotcha.
just more accounting, in my opinion. That doesn't need to happen.
No, I think
So-
I think it makes sense to leave it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's easier to just leave it here.
Perfect.
Okay. And then, yeah, I will say that, our evaluation process and our whole pay for performance needs a major overhaul. And so I certainly think that the express evaluations will help a lot.
Yeah, it's a really nice looking system. I know the city just changed to it. I was talking with Danny and the guy who actually runs Express Evaluations about it. And they were paying like $13,000 for a system and just switched to this one. So it's a decent price for what it does.
Okay. Yeah, and then, the Cassell license is also, partly for me because I can't log on half the time because we don't have enough licenses. But, we could part it out to my budget too, but it's all coming from the general fund, so it quite honestly doesn't matter. But, part of the reason for that, I'll just say, is because I need, to be able to log on to Cassell. And right now, we just don't have enough licenses for everybody to be working on it at the same time. And so that's part of that.
Right. And the $2,000 is just a one-time cost, and then it's going to be yearly for 2 licenses, the $1,200 after that. So
I guess my question is, is that going to happen this year or next year? I thought we were going to try for that this year.
we sure can try for that this year. I think I have enough in my budget to cover the 2,000.
Well, we can
as
bump
well.
it up 2,000.
Okay.
And so let's just do that. Let's try to
Okay.
get because I'm having a lot of trouble. I'm in the middle of budget season and I can't log on to Cassell half the time, so that's kind of a big deal for me.
Right. And I tell payroll, once you get in, you don't get out for the week. So on payroll week. So
Yeah.
we can get that out. So yeah, I'll reach out to Farrah today and with Quinn, and we'll get the license going there. So that'll take that down 2,000, and we can just put the 1,200 wherever
But
we
we-
want, I guess.
But we will have to, is it going to be prorated for this year?
Yeah, so the monthly, it's $100 for 2 licenses. So it would only be September, October, and November, October, November, December under the 1,200. But the 2,000 is that one-time cost.
All right, I think we should build that into our end of year amended budget for 2021.
Sounds good.
And I'm going to count this down to 35,000.
Okay. And then just generally, I put drug tests, those pre-employment, if they're in the general fund, then they come out of this account. And then just some other professional services as well. Nothing too major. Cell phone allowance, I take a lower one there, so just do the 720.
Okay, so your schedules for
Scheduled for a
computer.
desktop, yep.
Okay.
And the schooling expense I bumped up a bit just because trainings are costing a little bit more. And in 2021, I didn't really account for payroll taking any trainings on, so I've kind of used up the majority of that on my own.
Yeah.
Just an additional 15 there.
Yeah, training for yourself and payroll.
And being able to, payroll, and then also being able to just give some offerings to supervisors, not like myself doing the trainings, not giving them a training there, but just looking out for those kinds of options as well, putting on some trainings.
Oh, okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Renee on the personnel services request? Or comments?
So if we don't budget for the specialist coming back in, what's that going to roughly take the salaries down to?
So
well,
it's not
built
added
in yet, but
it's not, Chris.
let me look. We may have it in there already. I better double check.
No, there's only 2 positions in there right now. We took it out in 2021 because in 2020 is when I gave the position up so Matt could go full time with his. So we didn't bring it back in this year. So salaries will slightly increase just due to a salary survey and those types of talks we've had, but I think leaving that position off for this year and see how these kind of outsourcing things go.
Thanks.
Anything else before I move on to the treasurer's budget? All right. Okay, Chris, take it away.
Sure. Before I start, just to follow up, I did give a preliminary estimate of 65% for interest calculations for the budget for 2022 based off of the budget for 2021. But hopefully I'll get a lot more refined interest projections at some point once we're able to get fund balance information out from 2020.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and so for the treasurer's budget, there are not a lot of big changes, no major changes in staffing, except that I will have a new chief deputy starting in January. Hopefully, fingers crossed that we find somebody. And so I do anticipate a slight decrease in salaries there, assuming that person won't have as many years of experience as my current chief deputy. I bumped up my public notices just a tiny bit because I am doing a little bit more advertising for tax relief, which has gotten some response, and I think it's a good thing to do. Travel is pretty similar, but dependent on what happens with COVID. Of course, the biggest changes in my budget are going to be on the professional services line, the property tax accounting software that we use called Coins increased their rates 30% this year, which is a pretty steep increase, but they have not increased their rates for quite a few years. It's been quite a few years since that's gone up. I did look and see how many that had been, but I don't remember right now how long it was. But that's a pretty hefty increase. However, the alternative would be to ditch Coins and go with something else. There are alternatives. A lot of the, let's say, second, third, fourth class counties are on a system called Tyler. The last time I looked at it, it was going to be a whole lot more expensive than coins. And I assume it's still quite a bit more expensive than coins. Plus, there's a lot of expense to switching over. But it's something we could look at some point. That's definitely, that 30% increase is the biggest increase we've seen from coins in a very long time. It's been, hovering around 7,000 for the last 3-4 years. And then it was just like 6,300 before that for another 4 or 5 years. So it's been pretty stable. So hopefully it will continue to be stable. I don't know what's going to happen in the future on that one. And then the only other big change would be in inventory items. Instead of the 200 that I have budgeted when I don't have anything that I know of coming up, I have 1,000 budgeted in there to replace a desktop. Matt is keeping track of when we need to replace those. I'm going to replace one in 2022 and one in 2023. Those are the highlights. Everything else is more or less the same.
Okay, and then you said that coins increase happened this year. Do you mean next year or this year too?
Oh, that's a good question. I know Christy told us it was coming and to budget for it. And I assume that was starting at January, but I'd have to look back at her email to know for sure.
All right, so if we need to do something for 2021, will you let me know?
Yeah.
All right, and then I'll have to remember that too, because we split coins out between clerk, assessor, and treasurer and recorder. So
yeah, so we're all gonna see that going up.
Hey, Christie's email says they're increasing their rates in 2022.
okay. All right, so don't let me forget to if other department heads forget to increase that, remember that when we get to professional services for the other departments that use it, clerk, auditor, assessor, and recorder, to watch and see if they caught that rate increase.
Sounds good.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments regarding the treasurer's budget? Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, Sean, you're up next. Let me pull up our maintenance budget. We used to have 2 separate maintenance budgets for some reason. I don't know why, but we switched over to one to make it easier on ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so looks like, Sean, we need to fill in some of this stuff. Travel.
I didn't know if I should be filling in some of the utilities or stuff, and or if I just leave it and we discuss it and then fill it in.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. I might run a little quick projection while we're in the meeting here.
Okay.
Besides the ones that we still need to work on, is there anything of note? Looks like some of this has went up. Fuel's going up a bit.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw an extra, $800 in there. So.
But is it justified? Because you've never spent that much. You've only spent, the most you've spent recently was only 2/3 of that.
2/3. Okay, well, then I was just trying to adjust for the fuel increase.
Oh, never mind. Let me look. Yeah, so the most you've spent is around 2,000. So that one seems a little bit high to me.
Okay.
I think we should bump that back down to, maybe we can bump it up a little bit, maybe 23. But I think that would cover it. I mean, we
Okay.
can always minor adjustments like that as we go, but
Sure.
I think 23 will work. Then, I want to look at some of these other ones using these past ones. Office supplies, no big deal. Equipment maintenance. So, I mean, in
Now,
20, go ahead.
I wanted to note that our forklift is getting kind of old, and parts are getting harder and harder to come by. So it's still repairable and it's still good, but we might want to think about replacing it at some point in time. But I'll continue to keep it running and repaired. So
Replacing the whole forklift?
eventually, yeah. But for now, it's just I think we spent $1,500 on it this year. So.
Okay. I mean, that one's pretty variable. I mean, when you look at the line item, it ranges anywhere from 624 to 5,417.
Right.
5 years, so it's got a wide variance. I guess depends on just what we're dealing with.
And I do need to get new tires for my truck, but I was hoping to steal the tires off of another truck if we get the leased trucks, and then just swap them out. So I was hoping to save some money there.
Hard to sell a truck if it doesn't have any tires.
Yeah, I know. Well, we would just swap them out. I'd give them they're okay tires, but they need to be replaced. So.
All right. So building grounds and maintenance. I can't remember, why did we jack that one up to 60?
Because, well, originally the outbuilding, the other budget was kind of the outbuilding budget, and so we just combined the two, the courthouse and the outer building budget. So they're both roughly 30,000 a piece. So I think the courthouse was a little bit more since that includes the jail. So.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the first year we've done that, right? So we can't look at the past actuals.
I think it's actually the second year.
Is it?
Yeah. But then again, last year we really didn't do much last year for COVID.
Oh no, you're right. 24,000 plus. So 2019 it was. About 58,000 in 2019 combined, and then it was lower in 2020 because of COVID. So, yeah, 60,000 is probably about right.
I think I'm going to come pretty close this year, honestly, with the few pending jobs I have.
Yeah. All right. Then on utilities, yeah, this one's a little tricky. We switched over to 100% renewable, which is going to add a little bit to the cost on utilities for every utilities line. But I think they said it was only going to be about 6,000 across the whole county, so I don't think it's like a huge amount.
Oh.
But this is the main utility account for everything around the courthouse, right, Sean?
I think so. All the surrounding buildings, excluding the Star Hall, I think.
And this looks like it covers more than just, this is everything. So this is Frontier, Moab City, Rocky Mountain Power, Verizon.
Oh,
So
wow.
this isn't just electricity, this is,
Gas and
several
power and
different-
phone.
all right. So I think I'm gonna have to run an analysis on this one. But I would say that at the very least, the budget needs to match 2020, which was, we closed 2020 out at 93,266. So I don't think that, I doubt that 89 is enough to cover this year, but I'll have to run an analysis and project that out.
Okay.
But for now, I'm going to put 94 and then just make a note that I need to run an analysis on that one.
All right.
All right. And then on the vehicle lease payment, so you're not going to do that this year, right? And you worked with Cody?
Yeah, I think he was going to push me back to next year.
All right. So I'm just going to carry that straight across. I don't, hopefully it will stay relatively the same.
Yeah.
And what vehicles were those? What does that comprise?
Three trucks out of my 6, I think. It'll do two half tons and a 1 ton with a plow on it.
Okay. Then on fuel, oops. $2,300, slightly more than you've spent. So I mean, the most you spent on fuel,
19.
although fuel obviously is pretty expensive at the moment.
Yeah.
1157. You're still though on track to be under budget for this year, I'd say.
For that one.
Well, it depends, I guess, on how up to date are we, Quinn, on the fuel disbursement entries? Do you know?
I think we're probably a month behind is all. Like, I think don't quote me, but I think August is in there.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I reached out to Glenn a couple days ago for my budget for gasoline next year, and he says he's projecting for 2022 the gas to be 3.325 plus 15%, so that would bring it to 3.825 a gallon, and diesel to be 2.644 plus 15%, so that would bring it to 3.04 a gallon.
All right, so I guess what I'm going to need from Glenn is like percentage, get that figure in a percentage increase.
Yeah, I have it figured out. I'll email it to you.
All right, so right now we're through July. So that's 7 divided by 12, so that's 0.58 of the year elapsed. And so, let's see, 1157 divided by 0.58. So you're on track, Sean, to hit about 2,000 this year.
2,000. Cool.
So I think probably just keep it at the 2,200.
22. Okay.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to make a note to check with Glenn.
Okay.
Percent increases, because gas has gone up a lot. But right now, even with the gas being higher, you're still on track to be under budget.
Yeah.
All right, then professional and technical. What do you code to that one, Sean?
I kind of the operation of the courthouse and the surrounding buildings that just have to happen, that aren't contracted out per se, that are under the 2,000, but now under the 5,000. So like having the buildings sprayed, having the grease trap emptied out. So yeah.
All right, so 45 is more than the average, but I guess it's a little bit difficult to say. You have gone up to 4,800 in the past.
Jeez. Did I ask for more on that one?
500 more.
Oh, okay.
But I know that that's justified unless you know of some expense that's out of that's not normal.
Yeah.
So
I don't think so.
All right, we'll just stick with 4,000. I think that will probably cover it unless something weird happens. All right, cell phone allowance. Should be the same as years past. How many cell phones do you have in your department?
6.
Are they at different rates, or are they all at?
Well, they're at the stipend kind of thing that the employees get for having a cell phone that the county requires to use. So they get, I think, supervisors get what?
I can chime in there, Sean.
40?
You get the for the full year, Sean's allowance is the 1,080, and then his crew gets the $40 a month. So that's the 2,400 for 6.
So that one's right, Renee?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. And then special department supplies. So this is the one that Renee said there needs to be some journal entries made to fix it. So some payroll stuff got put in here. That's why it's a negative number. Let me see if I can tell what. For 550. 660, so about a little under 700 so far.
There was a 600 further down, Chris.
Oh, there's another 600? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the 34, 36. In the past, it's been more, but recently lower. So in 2020, Sean, you cut it 1,400. In 2019, you did 1,300.
Gotcha.
So I guess the question is, what's different? You're budgeting more than double what you spent the last 2 years.
Right.
So is that? What do you expect more to come out of that line than what's come out of it in the last couple of years?
No, well, I guess I overthought that one a little bit. Maybe bring that down to what, 2,500? Or is that still over fluffing it too much?
That's better than 3. Have a little cushion. It seems still, like, I guess this would be where it looked like you paid for like some gel stuff out of this. Like
really?
I see Utah Correction Industries. What's this Stamp and Trophy Company one?
I have no idea what that one is. But the Utah Correctional, that's okay. So that's my guys, the shirts that they get.
Okay.
And then I also use, they also get boots, steel toe boots through that as well. And I had planned on getting some harnesses and hard hats as well. So.
Okay.
That was ribbons for a county fair. Second place ribbons, streamer rosettes. First, second, third place ribbons.
Really? For the county fair? Is that a miscode? Was that supposed to go to USU or something?
I don't know. I'm just looking at the receipt.
Does it have my guy's number on it?
1046 10400.
Who signed for it? If there isn't an employee number on there, it's not my guy's.
I don't see an employee number on it, so that might be a miscode.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you try to chase that one down, Quinn? I'll bet that is a USU expense.
All right, I'll email Christy about it. She's out of town for a week, but we'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
Anyway, I think 2,000 is probably good, considering you've spent, in the last couple of years, 1,300 and then 1,400.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if we need to
Bring it back up.
change it, I mean, we can move money around, but want to
Okay.
get pretty close. Then on inventory, what are you planning to purchase for inventory?
What I put 3.
Say that again.
I would, I was hoping to get maybe a couple new hand blowers. Maybe another backpack blower would be nice for the path. And then, definitely a push blower comes in handy on that path as well. We have one that's getting kind of old. It'd be nice to have 2 though. And then I don't know if I'm gonna do well.
Will you put together a list of all that with prices and send it to me, please?
Sure.
But I do like to see itemized lists for inventory.
Oh, okay.
Or you can go in and one of the tricks in this software is you can create a worksheet, attach a worksheet, and it's like a little mini Excel spreadsheet where you can itemize things, and it will sum it in this line, but when you click on it, it will show what all the different things are in there that sum to that value.
Gotcha. I remember you showed me that last year.
Or you can just send me a list, whatever. but I just do, I like to see the list for the inventory purchases.
Gotcha.
And schooling, we tend, you know, it's a little bit of money. So this would be for training. Do you anticipate any training?
I'd like to get the guys CPR classes.
Okay,
So
that sounds good.
yeah, I think it'd be helpful. We were a little hesitant to do it this year just because of COVID kind of being weird. The guys were a little reluctant to even talk about it. So
Yeah. Well, they don't have you do mouth to mouth anymore.
yeah, well, you know, they're just afraid of things. So
All right. So anyway, I'm going to bounce this back down to 2,300 until I get the list from you.
okay, yeah, that's fine.
All right. Anybody else have any comments on this budget? Like I said, I'm going to have to do, I'm going to run an analysis on these utilities. And a little bit of analysis on fuel, which will be applicable across the whole county. Figure out what the percent increase is going to be cost-wise. But anybody have any other questions or comments? All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sean. All right, Quinn, your turn.
No,
All right.
no, go ahead.
You want to just walk down the walk through?
Yeah, I kept a lot of these the same. Postage went up a little bit, but we didn't spend very much the years before. We do have an election next year. I bumped that up $25. Travel I kept the same. I don't know. We could probably decrease that if we really wanted to. I'm open to suggestions. We don't.
Are you
Probably
going
Yeah, I
to do any UAC conferences or anything?
I guess I wouldn't mind attending. I'm not committed to it. I got up at 750 if you want it. I don't know. We'll spend 1,000. We haven't spent any this year, so. And then I don't know why that's so high. What were we thinking for this year? I can't remember why we made that so high for this year. We do need computers, but put that down in inventory.
It was almost 6 in 2020. Let me
That
see
was
if I can.
probably a lot of cleaning stuff, and that was the election year too.
So office expenses, Desert West, Frontier, shredding. Have you done any shredding this year?
Yeah,
Not
we
a
have a
lot.
credit down, but not a lot.
This one's Visa receipts. I don't know what that is, but I think we got, we did purchase quite a bit of office stuff. I mean, historically, it's been pretty high, 2019, 32 back up. So the average is probably actually
Actually, a little higher than
around,
6,
or
but
maybe
6
even
is
higher.
probably good.
So right now you're at 32. Let's see. Divided by 0.65. So I mean, this year you're probably going to hit 5,000 if you trend straight out as you have. Yeah, and last year, 2020 was almost 6, so I'd say 6 is probably okay.
All right, then we've got 30 in equipment maintenance. That's just the election machines and whatnot. So let's keep that the same.
Election machines shouldn't be election machines.
What is it? Oh, equipment, not the election machines, the copiers and everything else.
Yeah, I think it'll be your, let's look. This is last year. Oh, this is where you put,
Oh, that's our coin stuff too. So maybe we should put that up a little.
yeah. So the coins part should be, and this is where you do Cassell also. So you've got Cassell coins and your,
That less else with the copier.
yeah, and so, so 28,669. And Chris, what did you bump it up, about 3,000 on coins? Yeah, about 3,000, I think, was what the increase.
Yeah, it was like, it worked out to like a 30% increase.
So at 30,000, so I'm going to say, I think we should go probably 32 to be sure we cover that coins increase.
Does coins get split out evenly between all the offices?
I think so. Isn't that how you split it up? Just split it equitably between all the departments that use it, right, Quinn?
I think so, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how it gets split up.
Yeah, so it's 9,000 total for coins. Will be the new rate for the year.
All right. I think
No, go ahead.
because we add 3 to this, and then the others might go up a smidgen too. So that should cover the increase in coins. Then fuel,
I mean,
it's just a contingency amount, and I guess if you went to UAC or whatever, then you would have to spend something on fuel, so keep that in there.
and then professional and technical, that's the big bump. For a little bit of background for people that don't know, the audit team has significantly decreased the level of service they're providing. And so we're looking to hire some outside accounting consultants to help us close out the books and do the accruals and then the GASB tracking for our leases. And so I'm hoping that comes in a bit.
Maybe you should reach out to SMU and Rich and Marsing and see what they would charge. So if we contracted with a different auditor, got a new auditor.
Yeah, and that should be significantly cheaper than.
Well, no, so I don't know what it would be. If we went out to bid, I doubt it would be cheaper. But what I'm saying is if you said, ask SMU and Rich and Marsing, how much they would charge to prepare our annual financial statements for the auditor, whoever our new auditor is. Yeah. Ask them how much, get a cost opinion on that, okay?
All right.
And then we can plug that in. I mean, it's cheaper than hiring a CPA, and we don't even really have any CPAs that I probably that we could hire anyway, unless we brought them in from out of town. But yeah, I think having some professional accountants come in and get our books in order before the auditors show up is a good thing. So I actually agree with that. I don't know if 25,000 is the right amount, but check with SMU and see what they say.
All right.
We'll visit that. Because they only charge 40,000 for the whole deal right now. I mean, in the past, or less than 40, really, more like 35, 36. And that was for the audit and, you know, the services that they provided also, which they're going to cease to do now.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got an RFP in the works right now, and then I'll reach out to Steven and see if to try and give me a ballpark on that.
All right.
Phone allowance, should that be 18? Renee, what was the phone allowance again? 75?
It's 1,080 for the $90 a month one for
So
yours and Jana's should be sorry. Yours and Jana's should be 1,500. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and I wasn't getting that until I think the beginning of 21. So I think we're going to go over that this year.
All right. Better make a note to amend that. Okay.
And this one I dropped down 500. We don't seem to really hit that, but we do have the election next year. So
Well, remember, all the election expenses have to come out of the election
of the
department.
election, well, I know, but there's still increased activity in the office. I don't know.
Let's see if we can tell what. Oh, this is mostly just your water and, I don't know, Quadient Finance. I don't know what that is. So in the past, you know, like most departments will use this, you know, if they force their employees for whatever reason to work during lunch or dinner, like when there's an election, when you guys, you know, get pizza for everybody and nobody can take a break, that kind of thing. That's usually, you know, special department supplies, obviously water also.
That's also the postage is getting put in there, Chris.
What's that?
Our postage is getting put in there too.
Your postage is?
That's what Quadient is. So is that the only Quadient that's in there?
Yeah, there's Quadient one.
There's only one. That's almost certainly a miscode then.
Well, hold on. Let me go back and change the year that I'm looking at. This year, the only thing that's coded to it is water.
Okay.
But I wouldn't. I don't know that postage should come out of there, but maybe. I might put postage more up in office expenses, but I don't think postage is getting regularly charged there. Maybe it is.
No, because
Anyway.
we charge postage regularly. So if it's not showing up in there, if that was just a one-time thing, that was probably a miscode.
I don't know if it is. It's just in that 1 year, but nothing's hit it. No postage this year yet.
All right.
I don't know. Check that one out because I don't think you'll spend 2,000 unless you change the way you're coding things.
I don't
And
either, but
also-
why do we have it for 2,500 for 21? What was I don't remember the rationale behind that.
I don't remember either. It was 2,200 in 2016, but generally almost 2,000 in 2018, but it's gone down quite a bit.
You probably drop that down to 13 or 1,400 without really any worries. Well, really drop it down to 900, it seems like, but
How about 1,000 for now? I think that would cover anything. And then if you determine that that's even too much, just go back in and lower it.
All right. Capital improvements, we came in way under budget on that. I think I need to check and make sure we've gotten all the receipts, because I thought I remembered that it came out between 12 and 13,000. But there seemed to only be 7. These customer race glass, that's it.
That's all of it? That's the whole
Yeah.
thing for your office front
Yeah,
remodel?
that came in way under what we thought it was going to.
Well, that's good. And so, did we account for this in any COVID-related tracking?
I think we coded it, or we gave it the account. Yeah, it's part of our, we tried to do it in CARES Act, but since we're over the total allotment for the CARES Act anyway, I don't know that it really mattered, but we did give it an account code, the, what do you call that? The activity code associated with the COVID.
So just as long as we're tracking it, because if it happened in 2021, you know, there's a possibility that we could include it in our new ARPA reporting.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an activity code on it for CARES.
So what is the 2,500 you have for next year?
I don't know. I was just panicked. I didn't want to put it to 0, but we can probably put it to 0. I don't foresee any.
You panicked. I hope you're not panicking now, because I got rid of it. All right, then inventory. So this is all per Matt, new computers.
Yeah, 4 computers are due to be replaced this year.
All right, so like Sean, can you just like send me a list of what that all is, you know, all the different items?
Yeah.
Okay, then assessing and collecting, this should be like mostly your evaluation notices, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why we had it at 10.
I don't remember the rationale for that either, because it seems to be, well, I don't know why it was 61,000 in 2019 either, but.
Well, that was because we were paying the centrally assessed attorney.
Oh, out of there, okay.
Then we moved that over to non-department.
Yeah, you could probably put that at 5 or 6 and be, have plenty.
Well,
of
that's 5, I think, would cover it with any price increases from the data center or whatever. And sometimes you have to send out little postcards here and there. I think it was a little more in 2020 because I made a mistake on my, or actually I think it was Coins, or his, whatever his name is, messed me up. But this number right here is probably all you're going to spend this year, right? 4,041.
Yeah, I don't foresee anything else. And I made a mistake too. I had to send out 60 recalculated notices, but.
All right.
And then for schooling, we had 18,000 budget this year, but we haven't done it. I kind of was assuming or hoping that we could kind of keep that, but then I would use the decrease in that to offset any sort of consulting accounts that we hired in the hopes that that would end up being quite a learning process for us.
Yeah, so this 18,000, you know, was, it included, you know, this CPA stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but the remainder, though, the other part of it was having Cassell come down and do a big training in person.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, do you think that that's still something that needs to happen?
Cassell just sent out an email about a week ago saying they were opening up a training conference October 12th through 14th, and it's virtual and it's free. So.
And then, were you considering, it sounded like Cassell is also offering some services for reconciliation and whatnot?
Yeah, they were. And I talked about that, and it's not what we're looking for, is the short answer. I can elaborate if you want, but it's, they're not going to provide the type or level of service that we would be interested in. It's more like if, and this is their example, not mine, so I'll put that out front, but you have somebody that went on maternity leave, they would come in and take over the accounting duties of that person for 6 weeks and then turn them back over to the county. That was the example they used. It's not a comprehensive solution by any means.
Okay, so what's this 3,000?
I would like to still attend some sort of trainings or get some trainings going, but it doesn't need to be the 18,000.
Be
that's for sure.
determined?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I do like to have employees trained, so, yeah, definitely looking for opportunities. And I still think it might be good to have Cassell come down if, you know, at some point and just kind of review the entire workflow process from payroll all the way through everything,
Sure.
you
We can
know.
bump it to 5 if you want.
Well, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I mean, obviously, we'd have to pay for them to stay here, which is expensive, but, you know, fine-tuning the accounting system still kind of seems to me like something that might need to happen.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll keep it at that for now, but I do still think it would be nice to have Cassell come down and just run through all of our systems, see how everything's working, you know, check to see if there's any efficiency upgrades that we can make or improvements that we can make to how we're doing everything. All
Okay,
right.
look into it.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Quinn and the clerk auditor's budget? All right. Any future considerations before I close the meeting? Or other comments or questions, concerns, anything?
Chris, is it practical to, you know, these 2022 budgets that we've been looking at, can those be sent out ahead of time, or are they only ready?
I think they could be if, but usually people fill them out like the night before. When you have a meeting once a week, you know, it's like, but I can do that. If people, when people get them in, I'll just send this to Excel and shoot it out to you guys. But oftentimes,
It's not a big deal, but yeah, sometimes it's a lot.
and yeah,
to
in the
absorb
past,
quickly
like I
right
said,
on the
you know,
screen.
we run it through a more sophisticated analytics. I mean, as I've gained experience, I've kind of found that running it through the full statistical analysis is more of a waste of time for me, but you know, it's helpful to see for everybody else, and so.
And that statistical analysis, that's just looking
Well,
at the current budget
it
compared to
basically
past years.
tracks it will track the request against some statistics, like for instance, how does it compare with the average? How does it compare with the trend? Is it within the standard deviation for the line item? Those kinds of things. And I kind of needed that the first year I was responsible to do the whole budget. You know, and then as I gained more experience with all this stuff, I could just kind of spot things that popped out at me. It's a little bit of a job. I mean, Chris Coffin and I actually got to the point where we could do it pretty quick. He developed an Excel spreadsheet, and then I would download and import from Cassell Advantage and send it over to Chris, and he would plug it into the spreadsheet. I've just been so busy, I haven't had time to rev that whole system back up.
Okay. Well, I wasn't requesting that. I was just curious.
But anyway, I can send these out as they come in, and hopefully people will get them, you know, filled out, you know, soon enough to do that. But yeah, I can send them out. It's real easy to do.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, it is 2:44 p.m. and I'm going to close this Grand County Budget Advisory Board meeting. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good one.
Thank you.